Hello, horror fans. This is WraithLike Wisdom. I have a few stories for you from Reddit free horror stories that I'd like to share. And starting with story number 1, Moaning Myrtle? Nope, that's a different singing bathroom ghost. First incident, post-move. My friends have had things like this, but this comes out of personal experience. I'm a 15-year-old girl and a level 8 gymnast in rural Pennsylvania. After the old gym incidents and the need for some new space and equipment, we moved to a new gym. This story occurs a few weeks after the move. The new gym was the gymnasium of an old high school, so the bathrooms are stalls like at school. Across the room are a few changing stalls. The rooms, girls only. The stalls with toilets are in a row of 3, the last one being handicapped accessible with a ramp going up to it. One practice I had to use the bathroom while the rest of my team was vaulting. I went to the large stall up the ramp since no one else was in there. You can always tell if anyone goes in or out since the door creaks heavily and the outside noise gets 1,000 times louder. I was humming to myself, louder than usual since, as I said, no one was in the bathroom with me. I stopped when I sat down and then heard a hum. La-dee-da, la-la-la, dee, doo-da, la-dee, said a voice outside. It echoed off the tiled walls and floor. It sounded as if a young girl had entered and was singing quietly right outside my door, except the bathroom door had never opened. I looked under and saw the shadow of feet, but I looked further up, and there was no flesh, no feet, just a shadow. I heard giggling and running footsteps down the ramp. Then they just suddenly stopped. I kept looking under, but the shadows were gone, and there were no feet. The noise of the door opening and closing never came. I quickly finished and ran out of the room, terrified that Sheldon and Lucille had followed us to the new gym. We could never escape their presence. Story number 2. True. The clowns in 2016 almost killed me. Before I begin, I want to put down some basic facts about my story. I was 13 at the time of this occurrence and had been reading creepypastas and true stories since I was 11. Bad habits. I live in Carroll Island, a place where you can find a good amount of forestry everywhere. This was located in Baltimore County, and I loved hearing Goatman stories about this place. I believe there is one in Carroll Island, but that's not the point. I love this bit of forestry and had always when I was a child. I had lived in this house, still am, since I was 7 to 8. These forests, like any other town, always had some urban legend behind them. Some of these were mostly told by older kids who were just trying to scare kids who would wander about the streets. The teens would always go into the woods to smoke pot, alcohol. I hated that, but it's how they got their kicks. Story starts. Sorry. I was outside of my house sometime near January on a full moon. Can't recall which month perfectly, just know it was a full moon. This was when some of the clown things were starting to die off and come back in April of 2017. I never believed in them, and I still don't, but that night I think I did. I walked inside my house with me, my brother, and my friend, who we'll call Kyle. Kyle was from Dominican Republic and had always believed in the paranormal, so we had a good bit in common. We walked into my brother's room since it was the largest, and were watching Logan Paul's controversial Suicide Forest video. Once it was done, Kyle remembered it was a full moon and that the clowns were out tonight. I called BS and told him it was all hoaxes and insane people on highways. He doubled me by saying that if I didn't believe, they'd get me. I laughed at his remark to that. and told him to stop believing that stuff. That's when my brother, who I'll call Josh, sat up and said that I was just a wuss. I told him he was a jerk and that it wasn't funny. We got into a conversation for a good 10 minutes when Kyle finally says, "Why don't you go prove it?" I said, "Okay," and told them that I would be back. I know just the place to prove it. There was a little place down the road that was put there for a park, essentially. It wasn't funded. The only thing it had was a small walk bridge that was pretty nice. We called it the Duck Pond, but it actually was Seneca Creek. I'm giving all the location details to give you a better understanding of how scary this place would have been at night. I left the house, got onto my bike, and rode off 2 blocks away. At the entrance of the park is another set of woods that is private property, for houses on the water and some abandoned houses inside. The entrance is easy to see, can't miss it, and personally it looks pretty. As I walked up to the entrance, I had noticed a foul odor. Keep in mind that this is wildlife, where things die and decompose right there. It wasn't helped with the stench of trash reeking from the trash island. I was about to walk into the park when, I kid you not, something had spoken in a low, somewhat luring voice. "Hey there, kiddo. Why don't you come over here?" This is when I went into full panic mode. I am someone who isn't scared off easily, but it was the thought that it could be someone out there, the unknown, which scared me. I turned towards the small patch of bushes near the entrance and see something crouched over deep in the bushes, facing me. I couldn't tell it was a clown or demon. I didn't care at this point. Even thinking about it is making me paranoid. As I was going to man up and go see what it was, it speaks again. That's right. "Come over here." And I hear a sheathing of a blade. That's when I knew it was time to book it. I instantly wailed out in fright, almost pissing myself, and crashed into that bike. I say if I hadn't been riding for many years and built up muscle to power out of there, I would have been done. I floored it back to my house. At this point, my body is in complete hysteria, and Kyle said that once I opened the door, I was not comprehensible. It took me a minute to calm down and realize I shouldn't be so scared. I explained to Kyle and Josh what had just happened, and we agreed to go back tomorrow and mess up whoever was there. We never did, and I never go there at night. Creepy man in the freaking bushes, whoever you are, if you're still out there, let's not meet again. This is a true story. I am upcoming story writer and thought I'd put down a real one first. Thank you for reading. Story number 3, The Smiling Man. This was a small event that took place last summer in my home of Staten Island. I lived in a community with a bunch of parks and a pool in center of it all. I was going to meet a friend to smoke and take my girlfriend at the time out for lunch, so I decided to post myself on one of park's many concrete garbage pail covers. I took my surroundings and I noticed a small boy and a man old enough to be his grandpa. I felt something was wrong. I come from a family of cops, so my blue blood is kicking in. My eyes were fixed on the man. 6'1", brown eyes, fair skin, salt and pepper hair that was thinning, and a red and blue tablecloth button-up shirt. My gut said watch him, so I did. The entrance to the playground was adjacent to me on the left side. The man and the child were making the right turn to come to the entrance as I lit my smoke. I noticed the distance between them. The kid didn't even acknowledge this man. This where it hits me. The kid runs in the playground and the man keeps walking past the entrance. I broke sight to watch the kid run in when I returned to the man. He was looking at me, my gut feeling the sense of a predator as we locked eyes. He smiled the biggest shit-eating grin like a malicious child with his hand in the cookie jar. He began to make an exit out of the park, which is adjacent of me on the right side. I ran to the kid and politely asked him, "Hey, buddy, you know that man in the red and blue shirt?" The young man shook his head no. I realized that I may have prevented this child's abduction. I spread the news about this man through the neighborhood like bad gossip. Since I've moved away, I still remember that wide smile and pray that creep hasn't taken any more.